Right, guys, and welcome back. This is Above Average FPL. My name is Adam, as always, joined by Baker. How are you doing today, mate?
Number one in the world this week, mate. Absolutely magnificent.
You didn't make a transfer?
No
Unbelievable.
chance.
So, yeah, no, I was ranked like 6.7 million with my one transfer or
Oh, was
something
it?
like that.
I thought
Yeah,
everyone was going,
no, I think
I'm not number one in the world. Well, this is ruined.
I'm pretty sure Raga came out and said if you make a transfer, you have to be like 6.7 million because transfers count against you.
Boy, you ruined my Sunday night,
Sorry,
mate.
mate.
I thought
It's a good
I smashed
start.
it.
It's a good start. It's a good start. And yeah, so we've also got Pras with us this evening. How are you, Pras?
I'm doing very well, and also have enjoyed, I should say, the weekend with my kids and doing everything that I should be doing. Obviously missing FPL, but glad to be here.
Good man.
It
So what have you been
reminds you a
doing?
lot, doesn't it? It reminds you a lot of the amount of stresses that we put ourselves under on a weekend when there's not football.
Absolutely, absolutely. And how much you actually miss out on spending time on things that you should actually be doing.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
100% sure I agree on that.
Oh man, so we've got a lot to digest this evening, despite no football. Obviously with everything that's gone on the last week, I think it goes without saying that we at the podcast anyway, we definitely pass our condolences on to the royal family, passing of the Queen, etc. Massive moment for the country, new era, all this sort of thing as well. So yeah, for me, I understand the decision for all the games to be cancelled this weekend. Next weekend we'll have to wait and see. Obviously we've got the funeral now announced for the Monday. So, but we don't know exactly. We're all speculating. We're all hypothesizing what was going to happen. And I guess we'll talk about a few of the things that we think might happen. I guess, and a few of the things that people are talking about that will happen and will impact us from an FPL perspective. We'll try and keep an FPL lens on it as much as possible. And yeah, because there's no games to go through as such. Although, I think I did have something on the review, but there's nothing really to show. So, yeah, there's the game week 7 results. Pretty standard. No upsets. Pretty much as expected. 0 points all around. So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I think given the week, this is going to be a bit more of a relaxed view. I think more of a chat, more of an open chat. And so, guys, in the YouTube chat, if you want to get involved, just drop your questions in there and drop your thoughts in there and opinions in there. Yeah, then that would be good.
So, game week 8, we know nothing as yet.
We know nothing. Do we want to look at those fixtures first then?
Yeah, let's do that.
I'll tell you what. Should we get the plugs out of the way and then we can move on to the real stuff?
Yeah, let's do that. We can get
cool. Let's do that. See you in a sec. Firstly, guys and girls, thank you for joining us. Whether you're catching up with the podcast, whether you're watching on YouTube, or whether you're with us in the live stream, we appreciate every single one of you. And that doesn't matter whether you found us for the first time here today, or whether you're a seasoned follower of the show. Above Average FPL is supported by our good friend Dan. He is at CryptoBlockDan on Twitter. Dan has been in the crypto space for many, many years, doing very, very well. And he's currently working as an analyst with a company who works specifically in play-to-earn crypto gaming. Now, if you're interested in the blockchain, if you're interested in NFTs and the use cases of the technology in the future, then please go drop him a follow. Go ask him some questions. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer anything that you need to know. If you haven't maxed out all your mini leagues yet, there's one more that you can join. That is UAT148. The auto join links are going to be down in the description below. Last year's winner, Jamie Pickett, is in there, so it must be a good mini league to be in, I would say. And we're going to shut entries at the start of the World Cup, so make sure you get in there nice and early and see if you can win it. If you enjoyed the content that you see today, there's a couple of ways in which you can support the channel. The first one is to like, comment, subscribe and review. It helps us promote the channel and it allows us to reach more and more people looking for weekly FPL content. Alternatively, Baker and I are really looking to grow the channel this year. We've had a great 12 months, but we're looking to take that even further. If you wish to support the channel in that way, we have our YouTube memberships open now. We're looking to do maybe better content, more content, anything that we can make the FPL experience better for you guys. We are going to try and do that. Finally, once again from Baker and I, thank you very much for being here, and now we'll get back to the good stuff. Right, so game week 8. We'll start here. So we've got 2 games on the Friday, 3 on the Saturday, only one of which is on 3 o'clock. and we've got 4 on the Sunday, and obviously the Brighton game versus Palace is called off, even though the train strike has now been postponed, which
Which should have been 3:00 Saturday, wouldn't it? It was originally.
Yeah.
So we were all gonna get together next weekend, weren't we? And have a chat. And we were like, oh, Sunday, so many games, so we better, have a third wheel in, get Pras to come chat to us about what to do and when to wildcard and that. And then we were like, maybe we might wildcard early, so we might as well do it tonight. And now it's quite different, but we might have all games. Probably not. Might have no games. Maybe. There's a sort of common thought that London games might not be there. Palace and Brighton probably not back on, because I think almost that would count as the London game. I know it's in Brighton, but the fact that it's a derby or seen as that way, isn't it? The fact that they're even
given that the primary access to that stadium is through the train, and people are going to be converging on London from all areas of the country. I just can't see that happening personally.
It's just the reversing as well, right? I mean, once you cancel it, everyone sort of made alternative plans, got refunds, and then you ask them to do it again. So, I mean, every day we lose, I think the Brighton game's gone.
Yeah. Do you think maybe the Everton West Ham game as well? Like just sheer away fans going to it?
Not really sure about that. I mean, my perspective anyways, the first piece of good news is some games are going ahead, the midweek game. So whether you argue it's a UEFA thing versus an FA thing, but the fact of the matter is that UK is hosting football tomorrow with Liverpool, Thursday with Arsenal. I mean, all of these games are expected to go ahead. So then the next point is, why not Villa in Birmingham or Nottingham Forest in Nottingham? I mean, if conceivably they can host in Highbury on a Thursday night, they should be able to host these games. So that sort of makes me think that the entire cancellation is less likely, unless there's a bigger picture thing, as you mentioned, Baker, which is, you want the first game to be England, Germany or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is when it starts to become 2 or 3 or 4 games, do they think it's a bigger gesture? Like, do they double down? Like, we don't know about the sort of, we know in these sort of professions there is very arrogant people, and then we know that there's been vitriol against last week that they didn't play those games, or the game, week 7 hasn't gone ahead, and there's lots of people that say that shouldn't have happened. So therefore, is it the best way you do this is actually just double down and go, oh, actually, if we carry on with game week 8, then we just say, hey, football is this sport where we're going to protect it and say, be respectful in the domestic competition, just don't do it at all. Now that'll get more anger, but it's almost like it's consistency. Do you know what I mean? Like, we always whinge about refs that are not consistent stuff. At least they've been consistent and said, we're being respectful, we're going to continue being respectful. And do they just carry on with that? And then you've got the international break, and you could say, hey, the big English game, as it was, is England-Germany at home. You absolutely know there's no crowd negativity in that one. That one will be, the most patriotic game they could possibly choose for the first time, that English players belt out God Save the King.
I think I'll hear that up in Scotland, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe that becomes the poignant moment that the FA go, yeah, but if we make it about that, then it becomes a big deal. Then it all gets called off. But like you say, you'd think those 2 Friday night ones, and you'd think the first 2 games on Saturday, Newcastle and Wolves,
I feel
maybe
like
you just get those 4.
I think we could get those 4. I think that's probably, Newcastle's probably far enough away from. I mean, to be fair, what a game that is for away fans, to like Bournemouth all the way up to Newcastle, and then they'll probably be on the piss that night, and then they'll try and get back from Newcastle down to Bournemouth. Well, to be fair, they've got a bank holiday on the Monday, so
yeah, but getting back on that Sunday on trains into London on Sunday is going to be
it's going to be horrific. It's just going to be an absolute nightmare.
Let's just say it does happen though. Let's just say 2, 3, 4, 5 games happen. Pras, you tweeted earlier, didn't you, about some options of what you think people should do. We're the guessing game. There'll be pods later in the week, yourself later in the week to tell us what to do and stuff. But what was your initial thoughts?
Look, I mean, as somebody who was planning for game week 9, since we basically made the wildcard, the game week 1 draft, I was always on a wildcard 9 because of the international break, Arsenal's fixtures, Liverpool's fixtures, all of the reasons that we've talked about. So I was still thinking that if your team is in a position where you could get out a outfielder, 10 outfielders with a hit, I think you should still try to avoid playing the wildcard this week, or the free hit. So we haven't come to that iteration yet. So that's the first thing you saw. Look at your team, a hit. Maybe you've saved a transfer. So 2 free transfers plus a hit, 3 transfers gets you the ideal players, right? Because the discussion on free hit always becomes, are you covering your bases? And if we're in a scenario where there's no London games, you don't have the big hitters. If you can get to a De Bruyne, Mitrovic, Isak, Haaland, you've got a defender, Cancelo, I think you're sort of covering the bases. You've got Trippier. So it doesn't really merit for me a chip. So that was the first thinking. But then if you're like 3 or 4 players short, then that in itself is really bad. So that was level 1. So if you get to about 10 players with a hit, you should be okay and just sort of get to the international break. The second option is, if you have 5 or 6, what do you do? The question is it a free hit or a wild card? Now, what I've proposed here is that you'd rather just wildcard, because anyway, we were thinking of sort of dialing down the Liverpool players. We were thinking of sort of reducing our Chelsea. If you had Cucurella, for example, the fixtures are turning for certain teams. So you were not going to go big on an Arsenal. So you don't want triple Arsenal going into next week anyway. So you were going to sort of reduce these teams anyway. So now that they have a blank, you might as well just wildcard. Why would you then free hit?
I think on that sense, just to add to that as well, just something that I was thinking about there, was that if you do free hit in that scenario, you actually lose the 2 transfers that you've built up from the game week 7 postponements anyway. So you actually end up further away from the team that you want going into game week 9 anyway. So yeah, absolutely makes more sense just to wildcard, because actually when we look through the 8 versus 9 tickers, which we do have, we can see that there are some teams that have significant gains in terms of difficulty and drops in terms of difficulty, but really most of them actually they're not too different. In truth.
Absolutely. And then it comes down to, like you said, the free hit. I just feel there will be other opportunities in the season. So, Baker, we talked about how these games will be rescheduled. And this is one reason why I think this game week will not be completely washed away, because there's no weeks. So what you'll have is maybe a 3rd round replays for FA Cup being cancelled. All of them are going to jam into 1 week. So you could conceivably have a game week after the World Cup where you have 20 teams playing twice. What an amazing opportunity to either bench boost or free hit. So, and then you have your standard FA Cup quarterfinal blank. So there will be lots of free hit opportunities. The wildcard must be played before 16. So that's the thinking.
I've just had to stop it there because Drew has sent in a message that says, "Am I the only one who thinks Baker looks like Matt Smith from House of the Dragon?"
Matt Smith?
No.
No.
No. Moving on.
So where do we go? I mean, game week 8, I think you've got to see where it goes to. But I guess what I kind of wanted to look at tonight was really try and sort of think, what have we seen so far from the teams? What's going on with the fixtures? How bad would it be to wildcard game week 8 versus game week 9? And I guess the questions there are taking Chelsea players forward, taking Arsenal players forward, taking Liverpool players forward, because these are all players that we think they're not going to play, taking Brighton players forward, because these do make up, most of us have 6 or 7 of those in our teams right now. So they're ones that you could move on potentially. So we'd done a bit of work, and well, I say we'd done a bit of work. We asked our good friend Chase to say if he could give us some of his good work that he does. For anyone who doesn't know him, produces some great visuals, and he sent us some lovely high quality ones that we can use in the pod. So
perfect.
I'll let you introduce those, Adam.
Cool. So so what we're going to do is we're going to look at we have the non-penalty XG difference on the big 6, and then we have we have a table with non-penalty XG, and we also have a table with XGC as well. So within that, we also have two other graphs, two other sets of visuals, which you can now see on the screen. The one on the left-hand side shows XGC per game, as well as where shots are conceded from for that particular team. So whereabouts in the box, outside the box, and you can see from the key on the right-hand side that the darker the color, the more shots conceded. And the reason I've shown you the key here is because as we go through the big six, as we go through some of them, then you won't be able to see the key there. So I want you to know what it is now, essentially. And same for the one on the right hand side, which is basically your non-penalty XG4 and non-penalty XG against, and that basically shows the first 6 games in a graphical sense, with the line from top left to bottom right, essentially showing where XG and XGC are basically the same. So for Fulham, you can see they've had 2 games where their XG has been higher, and they've had 4 games where their XG has been lower than their XG conceded.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And anyone who's at audio, FPL_Chase, just go through his media and we'll post links to the tweets of all the stuff that we've used.
Yeah, exactly. So I have got this in. I've got the scenes set up in league order. So did you want to start with? Oh, I did actually, but then United a third, so that can't be right. Do we start with Arsenal?
Yeah, let's have a look at Arsenal.
Because we haven't looked at the fixtures as such yet, but yeah.
I mean, what's your take on Arsenal, Pras?
It's what we sort of hoped for pre-season, given the good fixtures. But if you look at the rolling 10-game average, it's pretty clear that it's a strong attacking team. I mean, it's improving. So we're looking at the XG difference here in terms of the rolling.
We are. Do you want to look at the XG, just the XG?
Yeah.
Because I think their current scoring rate in terms of how they've been doing has been fantastic, right? I mean, they're basically the 3rd best attack. So when you think of the times when you have Son and Kane for that Spurs attacking double up, well, they're actually as attacking as Spurs now in terms of their numbers and how they've evolved. And they're only second to Liverpool and Man City. So they're not priced as a top 3, top 4 attack, but they're performing like one.
Yeah. But
so
do you think they're not set up? But they're not set up in the same way as Tottenham. I mean, Martinelli's like a joke. Like
it's a joke, isn't it? Still, whatever happens in this, you can't go off Martinelli, can you?
He's nailed down his spot, so it doesn't look like. I mean, Smith Rowe is injured again. I remember from the last
warm down.
Game. Yeah. So I mean, that's his spot. So there's actually no reason to lose him, and then you're sort of ahead of the game as well when Arsenal have played Spurs, Man City, and Liverpool in the next 4.
And by the time you get to World Cup anyway, you'll be so full of value that you just can't get rid of him.
Yeah.
No.
It just doesn't seem worth it until like game week 34, 33 when you're looking at using that value to punt elsewhere. That's all you really need to know. I mean, I don't think they're not. Jesus is the interesting one, obviously, because they don't. Whilst you mentioned Kane and Son, I don't want to draw too many similarities between the way Arsenal and Tottenham attack. And the truth is, the way their FPL points come through, they don't. They just simply don't. Nowhere near as effective as Son and Kane were. If you look back to, when we were even if you look back to, October, November last year, where Tottenham were essentially 1 XG in December time when everything started picking up, that was all really Son and Kane.
Right.
Primarily, and historically it has been Son and Kane. So Jesus is an interesting one because there's so many other options at that price now. That's the thing.
That's the thing. You're not as crowded out on midfielders, are you, as you are crowded out on strikers at the moment.
Yeah.
And 1.6 average XG in a rolling 10 now. And that has been with some favourable fixtures, though.
It's true.
Is it still enough that you'd want to double up on attack if you had the opportunity? And I think it's one that I still think most of us will probably punt away from Jesus.
Well, I mean, how many of us double up on attack in double up on Liverpool attack and double up on, if we're not counting Trent and Robbo, for example? Like how, I know a few people have got Salah and Diaz, but people are considering that at the moment in particular.
I
Right?
think
Not
people
so
are considering that
not
a
so
lot.
comfortable at that in that situation at the moment. But even historically, we've never really doubled up on Liverpool, even though they've been absolutely massive. And I guess for different reasons, we haven't doubled up on City in attack either.
But we can afford to double up on Arsenal. We couldn't
This is
really
true.
afford to do Mane and even Firmino.
You had
couldn't
Jota,
afford
didn't
him.
it? It was just really Jota, but then it was minutes.
Yeah. So Jota and Salah was good. Diaz and Salah's been good. I still feel like there's good options there, but Arsenal aren't bad options. Certainly, it's not a bad option staying doubled up on those two.
See, the thing is, I think now for the foreseeable future, there's one forward spot available, pretty much.
Yeah.
Haaland and Mitrovic have taken 2 spots. So then you're sort of competing for that third spot with Isak, with Tony, with even a Fodder or a Kane or Nunes. I mean, so basically you're thinking 4 game weeks, I can sort of punt away from Jesus. Whether or not you're on wildcard, you could just simply switch out if you're not even on wildcard. And it's just a position that you sort of play around with. But Martinelli is just a gift. So, like we said, I think you just hold him. And if you don't want to play him against City, then he's even benchable.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at so I've got, this is the fixture ticker from game week 8. Now, are there any other teams in there where a striker could come good? I mean, we talk about the options that we have at the moment. I mean, if you want to, I mean, are we going to get anything from West Ham? Are we going to get like an Antonio, for example? Are we going to get anything from the Villa guys? I mean, these have got good fixtures. I'm not saying that they've shown us this season that they're worthy of picking in this period, but at the same time, the fixtures are there. Everton haven't got any strikers, so that's fine. But then you've also got Solanke at Bournemouth as well. So it's just a plethora of options there. That's going to make things difficult.
Yeah.
Just for that one striker spot. I think you're right. Mitrovic is a lock, right?
Mitrovic is just easy lock, isn't it? It really is. That £7 million and more spot though is. Still think there is a situation where you might still think, I'll have another midfielder. So, for example, Bowen. When I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, if I had to bet on points for that through to the World Cup now, on Bowen probably with penalties against Jesus, I'm like, that's a close call suddenly. Despite the fact of so far this season, it's not been anywhere near that in terms of being a close call.
Maddison, Zaha.
Yeah, Akash just put in the Iheanacho as well. I mean, we don't know how Leicester are going to line up because we know they had that short gap in between the 2 games. So we're still not sure whether they're going to go 2 up top or whether Vardy just comes straight back in or whether they're just going to rotate around or what. But like system-wise, they're different. And we also don't know how long Brendan Rodgers is going to last where he is at the moment either.
No, we certainly don't. We certainly don't know that.
There's all sorts of variables with Leicester, unfortunately.
Yeah, we can't go there. We can't go there.
I know we're even talking about, you say Maddison, Pras, but even Maddison behind a front 2 doesn't feel as comfortable as him, playing alongside almost. And in the first few games of the season, he was playing more advanced than Vardy. Vardy was dropping in and collecting the ball a lot deeper, and Maddison was making more runs and being a lot more advanced. Which, obviously that's a huge buy signal when they come into fixtures like this. Once they get Tottenham out of the way, I think if I move to the game week 9 ticker, obviously they get Tottenham out of the way, and it's they're behind Palace and Bournemouth.
It's that short thing though. If everyone's on wild card, and then we know you've got Forest, Bournemouth, Palace, Leeds, Wolves.
It's so weird looking at those top 5-6 teams at the top of this ticker. It really fucks with my mind, honestly. Because looking at the bottom there. Looking at the bottom there, Brighton, I've got 2 of them. Arsenal, I've got 2 of them. Liverpool, I've got 2 of them.
Is this Fantasy Football Scout of put this by difficulty? Is this where we're at? It does look weird. Bournemouth saying they've got the best fixtures from 9 to 16.
They're going to get battered by everybody.
See, that's the thing of if you look at just purely the fixtures, we had our honeymoon period, right? Where we started game week 1. Every good team had good fixtures, and now it's the flip. Now it's basically the good teams play each other in the next 4 game weeks.
Yeah.
Which is why a very viable strategy is to sort of swerve them if your team is such, and sort of just collect them back after game week 12 when Man City have played Arsenal, and then everybody has a clear run again. So, but that's what it is. We have to live with it. Now, it's not like Liverpool are not going to score against Brighton, Arsenal, even Man City. So,
Yeah.
what are we really saying here? Are we really backing Liverpool to lose these games? Not really. So it's a tricky one. We sort of have to ignore the fixture ticker for the better teams. This is why I guess you guys have looked at each of them individually and then assessed them. And then you look at the enablers and you compare the enablers. So we compare the Bowen to a Madison, to a Zaha, to an Iñárritu, and things like that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that is the fact. Liverpool, we don't bet on results in FPL. We punt on players. Defense, you could say a little bit because, the clean sheet piece, but ultimately individuals are what we're looking for. And therefore, I remember last season with Tottenham, a lot of people say, oh, they're not doing too well. And it was like, but Kane and Son just shit points, is Man United have not been brilliant for a number of years, but there's been times where Bruno has just done ridiculous things. They're Bowen last season, even once West Ham tailed off, it was still scoring points. Maddison's continued to score points. Rafinha had a good season, no matter what happened to Leeds. Is
true.
I think individuals are still one of the ones we want. The interesting one's probably the clean sheet piece, because most of us have got all of our defence from those bottom up, those teams there: Man City, Tottenham, Liverpool, Arsenal, Brighton. I mean, we started on Arsenal. I just look at those fixtures for Arsenal. Would you have any Arsenal on a defence on wildcard?
Not really. Even though the defensive numbers are okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. The problem just is the keeper thing, which you guys pointed out with Ramsdale's bonus potential, with his saves. So then you're thinking, there's just so many options this year. 5 million. I'm not spending 5 million on Gabriel when I can get Trippier.
No.
So
Yeah.
So that's Arsenal.
So that's Arsenal. City. I mean, they're just.
So we've all got Cancelo and Haaland, yeah?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Even if their game was off, would you come off those two, though? Just start on those two because they're the money.
No. For me, they're Salah and Trent. I mean, I know we'll come to Liverpool, but for me, they're sort of untouchable at the moment, unless we see something drastically different from Cancelo. I mean, people have been talking about Cancelo a lot in terms of his drop-off in attacking numbers, but the two fixtures that were the home bankers, I think Bournemouth and there was another home game, he got double-digit returns because those were the games he was marauding forward. He was needed to help out in attack because those teams were sitting back. And in the games where they were slightly harder, he sort of then was the midfielder alongside Walker. He was cutting in. So I'm happy to have him for the clean sheet and the odd 10-pointer. Nothing wrong with that for 7 million.
I mean,
and Laporte's not far away.
Yeah.
By the time we get back.
No, I mean they've been ridiculously unlucky to concede the goal. I mean, look at that bottom right graph. Everything's under one apart from that, obviously that rogue Newcastle game. And in two of those games that are sitting there under half an XG, they conceded 2 goals as well. So extremely. I mean, one of those was an own goal, I suppose, as well. So it wouldn't have counted any XG at all. But yeah, I feel like I've been unlucky having double City defense. I feel like I could have outcome could have been better on those ones. But I'm still, the game is still played in the edge of the opposition's box. That's where the game's played. The whole game, basically. So I've still got no issues there.
I've been the same. Double City defense, feel very unlucky with the outcomes. I mean, basically 1 shot, 1 goal. And against Villa especially. I mean, there were a couple of chances to be fair, but it's been unlucky. And this will be a question on wildcard, because let's say people are wildcarding game week 8, which is basically this week. Games are postponed and they're sort of forced to wildcard. There's no premium. Let's say the London games are off. There's no Kane. There's no the Liverpool game is off, so there's no Salah. People will naturally want to use their money on De Bruyne because there's no other premium to pick.
Yeah.
and they will convince themselves, record against Wolves, and I'm going to hold him for 2 weeks. Fine, fair enough. De Bruyne is a decent pick, so I'm not sort of hating on him. But then if you look at value, I think there's value on another premium and a City defender rather than De Bruyne and another defender. If you were to look at it aside from what's happening in game week 8, but we won't do that. Wildcarders will sort of all go for De Bruyne.
They will all go for Brighton.
Well, because they could, because because the thought will be you'll gain whatever De Bruyne gets in that first week versus anybody who doesn't wildcard. So if you do wildcard and you don't bring in De Bruyne, you could potentially be throwing away, okay, let's not say 30 points or whatever, or you got 25 points or whatever, but you could be throwing away 12 points for the sake of it, and you're going to captain him anyway, so you're going to throw away 24 points for the sake of perhaps
Mate,
a better,
still
perhaps
captain
a better
early.
premium.
Everyone's still captain
They're still
early.
captaining
Well,
her.
true, yeah, no, sorry, yeah, no, that's fair, sorry, yeah.
They're still captain early.
I'll tell you what, let's take an example. Let's say no games are postponed and you're playing a wild card. Would you have De Bruyne or Kane?
I'd
Salah?
I'd have Kane.
have Kane.
There you go.
I mean,
So
I
therefore-
want Kane.
Yeah. So people would sort of gravitate towards not a KDB structure, maybe a second defender, maybe a Foden. But again, the game is going to force you to pick De Bruyne because of the structure of how this is sort of panning out if the London games don't happen.
I mean, I'm only looking at I haven't looked at Kane as a wild card option though. That's the thing, really. I didn't consider Kane as a wild card option before. Obviously, everything happened here. I was looking at Kane as a 1 week punt, Kane and Son, to be fair, as a 1 week punt for Leicester before wild carding them out again. So I'm not 100% on having Kane when there are other options and the money can go elsewhere. Because and it's not like I don't trust Kane to return, but I guess my expectation is that someone like Mitrovic and someone like Isak or even Tony after Arsenal or whatever have the ability to return in the same vein as Kane does. And because they are talisman within their team and don't have the noise around them that someone like Kane does, who needs to double return essentially to get 3 bonus, that Mitrovic is going to get 3 bonus. So his goals are worth 7 points. Kane's might be worth 5. And so it's, I never was going to keep Kane from a wildcard perspective. So would I wildcard into Kane now? If I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I said it immediately like I would, but the more I've looked at it and just thinking about KDB and just thinking about, you start playing through your head that ball that for the last Haaland goal, the one that just looped over the keeper and he just taps it in, and you were like, yeah, it'd be nice owning De Bruyne and Haaland, wouldn't it?
So just on this as well. I mean, the risk with obviously these premiums playing in Europe, etc., is obviously the rotation that we almost expect that we haven't seen so far, and because we're not going to get the rotation because the guys have had a week off before next week's games. If the game week 8 games are cancelled, I mean the number of games they have to play between now and the World Cup just shrinks, so they might not even have to rotate them at all. You could just like Haaland even more so though. It just becomes a lock. He can just do 60 minutes, 75 minutes every week, depending on game state, and you just assume that City are going to win most of their games, and so he can come off at 60 on most of them. Might have to get to 90 a couple of times, but like Pep could just roll the same 11 out over and over and over again. He hasn't got anywhere near as many weeks to deal with when it comes to like October to mid-November. It's like 6 weeks.
And there's a Carabao Cup week midweek as well that
he could just bin off. Yeah, he just
Pep does Pep things.
Cole Palmer,
all
that shit. Yeah, exactly. So we could get in a situation where actually like the first team just gets rolled out on a lot of them. Like Kane won't need a rest.
And we could get to a point quite quickly for a couple of teams where Europe's done.
Oh yeah, Liverpool.
City quite often get to the point where the last game doesn't matter anyway.
Right.
They're going to be 2 in, then get into an international break. I think rotation's in the bin, mate. I just don't think any of us need to worry about it again.
But see, again, if we're talking premiums, the discussion goes back to, okay, you guys have said Kane maybe not over De Bruyne. Fair enough. Even though I still think the narrative can be he plays Leicester at home. Let's assume all fixtures are going ahead in your wildcarding, right? So you have Leicester at home, prime fixture. Arsenal away, North London derby, he loves it. Brighton away, that's not the Brighton we know. It's a different team. Everton at home. Next 4 game weeks, you have Kane, and then you switch him out to a Salah. after he's played Man City. So there is a sort of a narrative that you could build with Kane. So that's one. The other premium thing is, let's say you're wildcarding next week now. Let's talk about game week 9.
Yep.
Why not Salah? Salah's played Chelsea or not played Chelsea. That fixture is over. He's playing Brighton at home. The only tough fixture he has after this is Man City, because Arsenal, you could argue, is semi-tough, but Liverpool you'd expect or you'd think should win. I know there's a lot of people who've completely flipped on Liverpool. I definitely am not one of those. I mean, you have to sort of go with long-term, what you know. Maybe Klopp's figured stuff out over the last few weeks. Matip is back. Thiago is back. We'll again come to Liverpool as a team, but I come back to the premium discussion. If you were wildcarding this week, you're sort of forced to De Bruyne. Next week, would you consider Salah, or would you still go De Bruyne if you're wildcarding game week 9? Tough question.
It's a tough question. It's a tough question. It really is. It really is.
I mean, I'd enjoy having neither of them for that game week 11 game.
I like KDB. I do like it. The more I look at it, the home, obviously the Wolves game he did what he did. Then big game Kev, is 3 out of 4 United, Liverpool, and Arsenal. Just big game Kev.
Fair enough.
I like it.
I'm not as confident in Liverpool as you are, Pras, to be honest.
It's less confident than I would be.
I understand
myself not having Trent and Salah. I see teams without Trent and Salah. I mean, I could sort of lose Salah, but Trent I can't lose even now, regardless of. I mean, I know I saw the highlights. He was being very lazy, and
Well,
I know the defense issues, but
you know what happened last time he was that lazy and that crap.
He got dropped.
17 points.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I mean, he's not going to play Bournemouth again, but yeah.
Yeah, but if Matip's back, like Gomez was,
we still need to see how that changes things, definitely, because it will. Like Matip and Thiago coming back in, obviously, is so different.
I dislike Gomez as centre back. I think he's just poor. I'm sure there's other fans that would talk differently of him, but for me, there's no redeeming qualities that work for him as a centre back. But I did think last season when he did play right back, I was actually really impressed with him there. Much better positionally than I expected him to be. Much better delivery than I expected him to be. I don't understand when Klopp takes off Trent and brings Milner on, even if Trent's played terribly, because I just feel like it's like, what are you ever going to get from that? But I can see a world where he plays in big games, and the way that he's been defending, I can see a world where Matip comes in and he plays Gomez at right back.
I'm going to put Liverpool on the screen because we've moved off City now.
We have moved off them. And look at this. So on this screen, the XG conceded. Now, don't get me wrong, but Liverpool isn't as bad, I think, as people think it is. They're averaging 0.8 XG conceded per game. That's outstanding. Really good. Really good. But look where it comes from. I can see
what you're going to point out, yeah.
Look where it comes from.
It's non-Van Dijk between Trent and other centre-back.
Yeah, it's just that inside channel is poor. And that's partly Henderson's issue as well, is that Henderson really basically did part right back, part defensive midfielder for a number of years and can't do it, or isn't able to do it physically, get on the pitch to do it anymore. And that becomes a real issue for them. Add in that, no Joe Matip, and suddenly it's a big problem. It was always reliant last season on Alisson making worldies.
Yeah.
Occasionally, that's not going to work. It's not really working for him. Like, I'm probably with you, though.
They do play.
I think we've lost Praz.
Oh, I think we lost him.
Hold on 1 second.
Oh, he's back. Back?
It's on his side. It's on your side, Praz.
Oh, can you guys not hear me?
We can now.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying on Liverpool. My problem is, look, early season, people were saying, can Pep make Haaland work, right? Can Pep make the system work to Haaland? Well, he did. He's a great manager. He made it work. I feel like, I mean, Klopp is also a generational talent in terms of a manager. And we sort of, after a few games, to just kind of give up on the team just because they play Chelsea, which they're not anymore this week, or maybe they're not. I just feel uncomfortable. So I get why people are looking at a De Bruyne spot so that they can go back to Salah. They're not completely giving up on him. But to give up on Trent, you sort of do need to work around your funds. You need to make a defensive transfer. I just feel like I can't commit to that in a wildcard now or a wildcard later. I'd rather be in a position to downgrade Trent if I'm wrong later, but I wouldn't sort of go there at the moment. I'm very happy not to have a third Liverpool because of this cautious stance on we don't know where the team is going, and the fixtures sort of align to the fact that these are on the tougher side. I don't need to triple up. But to go no Liverpool, which I see in some drafts, is just something that I personally, it's not even that I'm scared of it. I just feel that Liverpool will figure it out. Klopp will figure it out.
Diaz, would you keep him?
Not really, because now the window is gone. Jota's back. Nunes is in the system, so he's been good. In fact, he's been unlucky in a few games, hitting the post. I can remember at least 2 games where he hit the post. So he's been there. In fact, he has turned Salah into a creator and him into a goal scorer. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I remember that Diaz has very little XA, and Salah has the highest XA that he's had this early on in the last 4 years. So it's almost like a role change where he's not a Mane. He's not creating, not that Mane was passing to Salah, but he was at least doing stuff for the team where chances were coming to Salah. But he's the one kind of taking the shots, being in the box, receiving end of Trent's crosses. He's creating a lot of XG. So I like him as a pick, but I think the window to have him is gone for now.
So you'd take him out. Even if you're a wild card in game week 9, let's just assume all games are on in game week 9, you'd have him out.
Yeah. I think Zaha, Maddison, Bowen are decent enough alternatives if, for that price. Or Foden even.
Foden.
Okay.
Big boy.
Fair enough. Where are we going to next?
Chelsea?
Yeah, we can go to Chelsea.
What's your take on Potter?
I mean, he's going to be great. I think at least in the initial phase, they couldn't have done better in terms of a manager who knows how to play 5 at the back, who can get this team attacking. He basically has better players than Brighton. So if he sort of brings that system in. Now, longer term, I have worries because does he know how to manage egos, how to manage people who sort of want to play but aren't getting minutes? That stuff you just don't know until you've experienced it. And I think something like Ole struggled with when he had these players. Managing a Big Six team is different. How you manage Bowley. I mean, there's a lot of news coming out that this guy doesn't really get football and he still tries to exert influence. Now, some of that may be bullshit, but, we'll see how it works out. But in the short term, Chelsea are a wild card team because we know nothing about how they will be set up, whether Sterling will be the talisman or whether that's Aubameyang or Mount or Havertz, no idea. We know defensively they should hopefully do better. Hopefully James should play wing back with Chilwell perhaps if he's fit, but that's all. But you're sort of almost having to punt on Chelsea because they have amazing fixtures from now until game week 16 after this Liverpool game week 8. So really depends how much you sort of buy into it, whether you go James, Fofana and Sterling, or you just go James or you just go Fofana. I think all options are open.
Yeah, I think it's
Fofana. Fofana's cheap, isn't he?
Fofana feels just cheap and easy. I mean, the rest though feels a little bit of a gamble. It all just feels a little bit of a gamble. I mean, the attack. I know it's going to be Potter instead of Tuchel, but if you'd watch them against Dynamo Zagreb, that's honestly one of the worst attacking. Considering how much of the ball they had as well, it was horrible, and it was like watching a late Pochettino Tottenham in the all the ball, just nothing with it whatsoever. And as you said, Potter's got experience playing with that back 3, back 5. He's got experience playing with, smaller and smaller number 9s, I guess I would say, and so it's like almost like position for position. He's had an upgrade almost.
I'm not sure about centre midfield. It's an upgrade though. Like last season,
Well, they've got no
Mwepu,
midfielders. They've got no
yeah,
midfielders.
Mwepu and Biss were class for them. Caicedo's been class from McAllister's dropped into that. Like Caicedo and McAllister walk into that centre midfield for Chelsea because Kante, you can't rely on it. Kovacic is done as a player. Gallagher is allergic to the football. Like they're not a 3-5-2, 3-4-3 centre midfield. They've got nobody that can do it. Jorginho is Jorginho. You know, he's a very like you have to build your whole team around Jorginho and the way he plays. And I'm not sure Potter is that person to do that. So that's the big challenge for him. Everywhere else, I agree. There's upgrades to be seen on what he had at Brighton, but
it might just be a case of plugging bodies in there and then just creating a system whereby they bypass them as much as possible and just use them for just plugging the gap.
Yeah,
as much as possible in the short term until he gets players in. So that's why I'm still not sure.
Yeah,
who I would go for. Like, if we're coming off Salah at wildcard, would you punt up to Sterling for example?
No.
Possibly.
I wouldn't. No? I wouldn't. Not until I see what happens with Aubameyang. Like, is and where that goes, because I just feel like they will occupy the same space in that position. What will you do with Havertz? What will they do with that? The thing with a £10 million Sterling is that where do you go with that 10 million quid? Like, your two moves to try and rectify it if it doesn't work out, or you end up playing and suddenly having 2 million in your bank and doing all that stuff. I mean, you're playing a £100 million game and you're only playing with 98 million. Like, that's never going to work out in the long run.
We're not really talking about long run though. We're talking about like to game week 16, like from game week 9 to 16. I think there's enough in there for someone like Sterling to, you know, he could conceivably score 7 or 8 goals in this period easily.
Oh, he could score 15 goals.
Exactly. When the players around him are still good enough to provide him with that, and he's already shown this season he's willing to get into those positions. So,
but he could just bin him. Like,
well, there is that.
He could just bin him.
Yeah, there is that. I can't see it, but I think he'll probably be under instruction for Sterling. I'm not so sure.
I don't know. Like, there's a lot of
it's
stuff.
weird. It's weird signings for a manager that's not there anymore, and there's all sorts of weird stuff going on in that little circus. Like Aubameyang expecting to play for Tuchel, Gilmore gone to Brighton expecting to play for Potter. This sort of nonsense is going on.
It's chaos, mate.
They couldn't have timed it worse.
No, it was all terrible, horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember when Conte joined Spurs, and we were all sitting there waiting for the Europa League game on a Thursday, and we extrapolated the hell out of that game to say that's how it's going to be. This is how Conte is going to be. This guy is going to be wing back. This guy is going to be attack. Son's going to be up top, and that's what's going to happen with Potter when he plays the Champions League on Wednesday or Tuesday, whenever that is. Yeah. So
Champions League first game.
Yeah, well,
a must-win as well, like a must-win Champions League game. Good luck, Graham.
Because you see Chilwell starting that game. You see, Chilwell and James and wing back, or you see Sterling sort of being the talisman carrying the ball, like a Trossard from the side. Or you see Mount being very influential like a Gross, and you sort of start drawing parallels and go, okay, I'm going all in. And I think we will see that. And this is something that I wish that we get the Liverpool-Chelsea game, because then we'll have 2 games to evaluate Chelsea, and then we can take a more educated guess. Another reason why I would slightly prefer the Game Week 9 wildcard, you get to actually see Potter twice. And then you get to, even though one of them is against Liverpool, then you can take a guess, because I slightly differ, Baker, on that, because on the Sterling versus Salah thing, because I think if I was to jump off Salah, I want to use the money. So I was looking, for example, at a Game Week 9 wildcard where you have Haaland, Sterling, and Kane, and you don't put in that much money in defense.
Yeah.
So you could argue that, you're sort of getting a 2.5 EM.
Yeah, I like 2.5 EM.
And
very much
I liked it because I thought that if Sterling is a greedy player, right? I mean, you look at Sterling England, unless he's on a leash with Pep where you hug the touchline, he's always involved, whether he's sort of wriggling the ball in to assist somebody or he's sort of in the box waiting for the balls. So I feel like he would gravitate towards the ball and he would be attacking, but we've got nothing to base this on. But if I see that in 2 game weeks, or 2 weeks or 2 matches of football, I could see myself going there on game week 9.
The opposite to what I'm saying there is where it's like, hey, if it goes wrong, you're in a weird position. If it goes right, a £10 million player is really hard to get to.
Yeah.
You'll then have to make those decisions, like you say, like take a Trent out, take a Cancelo out, do something because you want to try and move those players up. Assuming the game's off next weekend, I'm not sure we've got enough information to say I want to spend 10 million on them.
That's the thing.
But the fixtures are good.
Yeah. Cool. Moving on. Tottenham. We'll get there. We'll get to United last.
We can go to Tottenham.
You guys take it away.
I mean, go on.
Well, what do you do with them?
I mean, I'm quite happy not having Tottenham at the moment from an FPL perspective. I just don't feel confident in the quality of the. Well, we're not getting the volume. Well, actually, it's not the quality. It's
the volume, isn't it?
It's not the quality because Kane's at the back post like every single game. But is that enough? Like, okay, it's great that Kane's getting big chances and he puts one away, but you know, Mitrovic gets big and medium chances and puts one away as well for 5 million less. So, like, why would you bother with someone like Kane? And you know, I fall on my sword here and say that yes, Richarlison is taking minutes off Kulusevski, which is hard to say. And Richarlison started well as well, so you know we could see rotation across that front three with Richarlison now. I think that's fair to say, and I think we're all expecting Son to take a rest soon as well, more than anything. Even just to watch a game unfold and have an impact, and you know just hit the game in a different way rather than the same sort of banging on the door that he's had, which was zero success. For me, I know he's streaky, or he has been in the past. He's had these periods in the past where he's gone 5 or 6 games without returning, but it just feels like a bad moment for him at the moment.
It's a bad moment, but you can't imagine that this is the end of Son.
Oh God, no!
Like it's not, is it? But it's a case of...
it is at 11.5 million. Like it's a no-brainer at 11.5. You just don't go anywhere near it.
12 million. Well, what is he now? He's probably 11.5 now, and he's probably
11.5 now. Yeah,
he's 11.7.
That Richarlison thing, like from a football stance, I cannot love him more, but from an FPL stance, it just makes everything difficult. Yeah. Because we don't know, like the one player we expect him not to take the minutes off is Kane, but he can play that role. And when he does play, he does take that role, even if Kane's on the pitch. So he might just make Kane that midfielder place again. We might have the old defensive midfielder jibes about Kane again, and he drops, because the one area where we are getting overrun is in centre midfield at the moment. So the good thing about playing Richarlison is it does enable Kane to drop a little bit deeper, but then does that make Kane worse? That's it. Like the whole thing just feels like, ugh.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, general results saying Richarlison lads, and Kane's good but no space. Yeah, and Dan saying that Son is 11.7. So yeah, it's all a bit like all what we're saying essentially. Talking about let's talk about Perisic then, just for a second, because do you feel that he's done as much as you'd expected of him so far this season?
Pras,
you guys should comment as fans. I can only sort of say I owned Perisic. Look, I love Perisic, and I think he's the ideal FPL pick where you sort of when you pick the player, you watch the game. It's so exciting, right? I mean, this is what you want to play the game for. So I got him game week 3. Great start, got an assist, I think 12-pointer. Second game, he should have had the penalty. He didn't get.
Kane missed it.
Kane missed, yeah. And after that, look, if I look at the underlying data, it's not been great. I mean, XG is nothing, 0.
Yeah.
So that tells me, even though I do remember from watching the games, there were moments where he could have shot, but he chose to pass instead. At least a couple I remember.
I think there's one that's like in our mind, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like he's not in the box and attacking. You expect him to do everything that you thought he'd do. He's crossing the ball a lot more. He is involved in the attack. He's basically part of the 4 Emerson slightly less. So I think he's doing his stuff. And with Spurs, we are also blessed with this Paul O'Keefe predictions. So you sort of have a little bit of visibility if actually Perisic starts or not, which I think is a gift. And I think more people should have got on that. But now the honeymoon period is over because the midweek games are here, and you cannot predict. And it's weeks like, let's say, game week 8, right? A lot of people were thinking dead end to wildcard 9. Shall we get Perisic? I sold Perisic because I knew it's a Friday kickoff. We'll have no idea if Perisic starts or not. I don't want to dead end with a guy who plays or not. If he doesn't, he'll get 1-pointer. He'll always come on. But if he starts, any game he could get a 12, 15-pointer. So it's almost like a James Light version, right?
Yeah.
Or a more rotation risk.
That's what I'm saying. They're just too much headache. Like at the moment, we're too much headache. But maybe we come out of the international break not so. Again, it sort of pushes me away from, if you can get away without wild card in game week 8, I probably would.
I think on a football perspective, I mean, we expect that now with a bigger squad. We expect that now with a bigger squad for which the manager expects more from all of the players.
Yeah.
Whereas
we're not reliant like we
over reliant. Exactly. That's exactly
just
it.
A good
reliance
team
on Kane and Son previously. So, yeah.
Talking of better teams, should we go to your team? Just conscious of time.
Let's do it.
Let's go your team.
We're good on time. We're okay. We're okay. No one else has got anything else to do tonight. It's fine.
No match of the day either.
No match of the day. Nothing. No games to think about. There is a question: would you transfer out Perisic or Zinchenko?
Zinchenko.
Assuming no game week 8.
I mean,
I mean, only because Zinchenko might play. If let's say all games are going ahead, then he has Brentford away, which he should play.
Brentford score, mate.
Brentford will score.
Brentford score.
Like 2xG at home, aren't they?
Fair enough.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay, United. What are you thinking, Pras?
I'm thinking good signs, but if you look at the Europa League game, it's not there yet. All the pieces aren't there. Now, I know Europa League was a heavily rotated side with Ronaldo, Casemiro was really rusty. So I think we're not yet a system team. We'd like to be a system team, but we're not there yet. The players are still learning. We don't have all the individuals to play Ten Hag system. So in the games where it clicks, where we're high energy, the way we're winning games is still the Ole style of winning the games, which is counter-attack. We're not sort of dominating and pressing to the extent that Ten Hag wants. We cannot start attacks from the back because De Gea can't pass the ball. So think of us like Klopp's first season Liverpool, where you could have games where Man United just lose 1-0 and look absolutely awful, or you could have games where we actually smash. Leeds is a good example. Man United could smash Leeds 4-0, 4-1. So it's a little bit of what you'd get with a new manager with not an ideal team. I think Anthony as well, he got a lot of plaudits for his goals or his goal, but he's looked a little bit off the pace. He's trying that trickery a little bit too much for my liking. So we're getting there. I think in terms of system, you will see Eriksen running the show. Bruno is a little bit more free to stay up front because he doesn't have to link the play from the defense anymore. There's Eriksen to do that. So Bruno will be much more involved in the attack. Whether he's the assister to the assister or the actual assister is another question, but he will be basically in a free role in the opposition's half, which is nice. Sancho will continue to tick along because he's the starter who will remain in that front three, regardless of who starts, whether it's Anthony, Rashford, Martial. And then look, the wild card is Rashford, right? I mean, he will continue to play up top as long as Anthony starts and Sancho starts. But I have to warn you that he doesn't look that great as a number 9. And we've said that in the past. People who didn't watch the match don't realize that actually his goals came from when he actually moved to the left because Anthony was taken off. So I'm still skeptical, but if you get a number 9 playing regularly while Martial has injury issues and Ronaldo's out of the system, then he's a cheat code because he will be involved in the goals regardless as long as Man United score. So I think that's all I have to say. In terms of defense, I think Dalot is impressed a lot in terms of how we're setting up. So it's almost similar to Man City, where sort of Dalot doesn't really press as much forward. And this is why Anthony fits into the system very well, where Anthony can sort of be on the wing by himself because he can actually beat a man. Whereas on the left side, you need Malacia to join into the attack with Sancho and make these triangles. So as an attacking output, I think Malacia is slightly better, but then he will have Shaw to compete. Dalot has basically made his position his own. So he should be nailed 4.4, great option.
If you had to go, if you're a wild card in this week, let's again, we're just loads of hypotheticals, but if wild card in this weekend and Man United games on, or wild card in game week 9, where do you think you go there at all?
If it's this week, I'll go Rashford. But after this week, if I was to wildcard in 9, I may not have had any, because I would go Fofana over Dallo, and I would go Zaha over Rashford, for example, just sort of taking 2 positions. But this week, I would almost say I'll go for Rashford and I'll upgrade him to Zaha or Maddison eventually.
Yeah,
because Leeds home is a great fixture.
Question about whether you would go Bruno for a week.
Could do, but I think
do you feel like that's more free hitty if you get.
I don't even know if Bruno will outscore Rashford. If Rashford is playing
true.
number 9 and plays 80, 90 minutes. So that's the thing. It's not a price thing.
There's a question on, do you think United will struggle more against teams who play a low block as they look to counter-attack?
Sounds like it. I think from the evidence we've seen so far, the goals are coming from counter-attack teams that actually do have possession of the ball, but that's not the Ten Hag way.
Yeah.
So eventually we will do better against those teams when Anthony is a little bit more bedded into the system. I think we'll do better, but at the moment, yeah, I can see us struggling, which is why maybe it's a fan thing, but I would stay away unless it's a 1 week punt against Leeds.
That rolling XG still only at 1 is pretty poor. I mean, to say it's pretty poor is probably an understatement.
Yeah, I think that they're just working on the system, aren't they? Being solid, get it what they get, and then the counters are quicker. You've got good players, Eriksen and Bruno are good passers. You've now got good runners off it, and I don't suspect we see Alanga, for example, in those wide positions, because he's a good runner, but they don't need good runners now. They need good runners and people that can play, and Anthony and Sancho and Rashford are great options. Martial's back. We don't know how that works. Ronaldo.
I'd expect against teams that are sitting back. Obviously, you can't run in behind. There's no space. So therefore, Sancho, Rashford less influential. But then maybe I'd think Eriksen pushes up a little bit more because there is space to sort of push up. So you're thinking of the ways to score would be, the wingers crossing the ball in or cutting inside and shooting. I think there's opportunity. I think Eriksen would be more involved in that situation, but it remains to be seen. And I think the rolling XG thing, Man United have been doing Man United things or Ten Hag things only for 4 games. So that's very, very short sample size. Yeah. 2 of those games are Liverpool and Arsenal as well, of the 4 in which they've improved. So
fair enough. Cool. Well, I think we've covered the big 6. Out of the ones that we haven't covered, I mean, I guess we should just touch on. I suppose we've touched on Brighton. Like, do we expect them just to fall off a cliff here, or do we expect? I actually think the longer they go without playing, the worse it's going to be for them. In truth, I think they could have used a game week 7 and game week 8 just to get some of those Potterisms still in their way of playing, and before things will change. That said, they've probably got a bit more time now to find a replacement as well.
I mean, I back their scouting. Their scouting has been really fantastic. Good, yeah. As a team, you would think that they knew this time was coming. Like, this isn't it might not happen or something like that. This was gonna happen at some point. So they always knew at some point. As soon as Tottenham sort of were sniffing around them, you knew that at some point that one of the big 6, as we've called them tonight, was going to eventually come for Potter. And I feel like Potter would have been working with them on those type of things. So I suspect it's somebody that's going to be in a similar vein. I've seen, the sort of links. You've got, his name is the Scandinavian fella.
The Norwegian and the Australian with funky names. That's all I remember.
You've got Roberto De Zerbi, haven't you, as well, which that would be a fun one. So he's the Italian guy, and he plays a very odd formations. It's like 2-4-1-3 or something like that. Is the formation that he likes to play like that. He's quite sort of out there in how he's playing. He was at Shakhtar and then just resigned as soon as the Ukraine conflict started happening. So was off. But he would be interesting.
I mean, this is the change we've seen in the last 5-8 years, right? I mean, there is an intent to get attacking managers with intent. We're not going back to the Sam Allardyces and rotation. Just keep on rotating those managers. And look, from an FPL point of view, I wish Brighton well, but we're not going there. They've got like blank, then Liverpool, Spurs, then after a couple of game weeks, Man City and Chelsea. We just sort of wait and watch. If you're very heavy on Brighton, then you'll be wildcarding soon.
Yeah, true.
I've got 2 of them, so yes.
Yeah,
I'll be wildcarding soon.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, if we didn't have these, yeah, I was going to wildcard 9, but yeah, I'm going to have to think about whether I can get through to 12. We'll see.
Just looking at it, what about Palace? Because I was really impressed with Palace last season and thought that Vieira had done a really good job, but I'm not sure anymore this season.
Like, do you think losing Gallagher? I mean, you said earlier he likes to avoid the ball, but do you think Gallagher suited the way that Vieira wanted him to play last season? That kind of drove the way they played last season, I think.
Well, I think he is, again. I don't think Gallagher's a good player, but he's just good in the right places in that he pressures the ball and does all the stuff that Mount can really do for them that they don't need in Chelsea. But he was good at what he did there. Just the whole thing looks a bit. I don't know.
Poor fixtures, though. I think to give them some slack. I mean, they were pretty much bottom of the ticker or bottom 5 of the ticker so far. If you look at, I mean, Chase's rolling XG conceded, they're number 4. They're better than Brighton. So it's a team that knows the system, that plays to the system, that is attacking, but then because of the possession, they don't concede a lot of XG. I think it's Zaha and Guaita or Anderson or Guehi or something like an enabler, and that's it, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about. Maybe an Eze. But I guess we're not getting overexcited in the attack. It's a 1xG team, so a middling attack.
It's just Zaha, isn't it?
It's just Zaha. Just
Zaha. Cool.
Do you think you'll go there on wildcard, Zaha?
If it's 9, I will definitely look to go there. Because they play Chelsea in 9. But then after that, their run is fantastic. I mean, it's Zaha feels like a player where you just put him in and you keep him for the long term. And it feels like after game week 9, the long term.
I don't think I've ever seen such a good set of fixtures for them. Leeds home, Leicester away, Wolves home, Everton away, Southampton home, West Ham away, Forest away, then a month off.
I think not even a top 8 team in that.
No.
Leicester, but not really.
Yeah.
West Ham, but not really at the same time.
So this was my thinking on Game Week 9 wildcard as well. Again, we keep talking about it because I was desperate for a Game Week 9 wildcard. Obviously, if we're forced for a Game Week 8, so be it. But Guaita and Ward, I know people will not like to hear this, but you play Ward against Forest Game Week 9, and then you keep Guaita. So I know Pope is like the flavor of the wildcard, and he's great. But then you compare that to a Newcastle who play fine Fulham and Brentford, but then they play Man United, they play Spurs, they play Chelsea as well. Do you really want to double up in their defense as opposed to if you went Guaita?
No, yes is the answer because I feel like Newcastle's defense is better equipped to deal with those teams and all the tough games that you're talking about. They're at home.
Fair,
as well.
Fair.
So I mean, I would much rather take that. And we saw in the game last week against Palace, there was a lot of shots, right? There was a lot of high volume, low XG shots, which Pope was just racking up save points, racking up bonus, racking up everything. Yeah, I can't get on board with Guaita. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not convinced of Guaita. I just don't know about Gay and Anderson. Like when I watch them, I feel like the pair of them are like the outside full centre backs of a three at the back, but like in Czech Coyote isn't there anymore. But I almost felt like he would just sort of like drop into that, and you had like a third centre back or somebody else would just be plodding, would sit there in front of him. I just feel like with just 2 of them, there's always a gap.
Yeah.
I'm not quite convinced that I feel like Gay's too left-sided and Anderson's too far on the right, and there's just a big hole in the middle. I don't quite get it on defence at Palace. Not like I did last season. I thought they were a really solid team, but like you say, the fixtures have been awful. Pope, it's just so lovely owning Pope, isn't it?
I'll just say I can't even read the ticker. Obviously, the Tottenham game and the United game are both away, not at home, I should say. And I've been pointing that out in the chat, but still.
But Pope, like, it's the difference of you can still get 5 points from Pope when they concede. You know that with Pope, and you can get the 10s, and he will do those things for you. And whereas, you mentioned earlier about like Edison and Walkers and the like, is you can only ever really get unlucky with those players. You don't ever get lucky because the best you ever get them from the 6s, but you feel like you get unlucky every time they get the 2s. Pope, like, is the sort of man where you refresh the bonus a lot. You check the save numbers. You get that little, I'm enjoying having this keeper.
Fair enough. Look, again, I'm going back to XG conceded. Newcastle are bottom 10. Now, they're good. They're getting better. So maybe the trend is that they're getting better. So you have to sort of get on the train rather than just looking at backward-looking numbers. I feel like they've played Liverpool and Man City, and they did well in those games. Obviously, they performed well. They conceded 4 goals, but they did well. But those were games where they did take on a lot of shots. Pope did make a lot of saves. Look, I'm not saying he's a bad choice, and I think he's top 2. I'm just sort of questioning if it was Dubravka instead of Pope. Are we carrying our Burnley memories of Pope?
We absolutely are.
And saying, oh, that's the Pope I'm buying. But that's not the Pope. You're buying the Newcastle Pope. And he's still a great shot stopper, and he will get save points, but maybe not to the extent. I mean, Burnley were built for just shoot at us.
Oh, yeah.
Just don't get into the box, but shoot. And that's basically why he got, shitloads of points. And Heaton got that the season before. So that was a Burnley thing, not a Pope thing. So I feel like we transformed that into Newcastle a little bit too easily because it's Pope again.
It is Pope, though. It's so nice.
I've got so we were going to look at like 3 players, but I think we're kind of past that. But I'm going to bring up Trips on the screen now. And I'm just looking at this this obviously hexagon graph in the bottom corner, and just looking at where they're conceding. Most of their shots are in the box, and I think there's a little bit of discrepancy between the XGC I've got in the table above and below. But if you exclude City, it's about 1.1 XGC. And I excluded City just because City are like the best attack in the country.
And they won't play them now.
And they won't play them. Exactly. So I can't remember where City scored their goals, but I would assume they were inside the box because Haaland scored. Haaland get all 3? No.
I don't even know.
I can't remember.
Anymore.
Anyway, but
it's been so long since we had football.
No, he actually didn't. I remember Pranil captained him and he got unlucky. He missed a couple of
He got 1 goal, didn't he?
Yeah, he got 1 goal.
He got 1 goal. Should have had more. Should have had, but he would have had that dark pink area that you've got in front of the 6-yard box. He had a couple there.
But let's just look at those. Look at the furthest away hexagons in that central spot. They are darker than almost everything apart from those 2 spots in the middle. Like they're conceding a lot of their shots from a long way away still. And you say we're not buying the Burnley Pope, but that feels very Burnley-esque, Burnley-ish, however you want to call it.
If you can afford him, you get Pope. It's actually just if you can afford him piece. And what Pras was saying earlier about maybe you get yourself a freemium or those type of like. If you can afford it, I think most of us would still end up going there.
That's fair.
I think in the 4.5s, GW7 is probably the one now.
Yeah.
1.3 XG conceded per game, though. I mean, it just makes me a little bit uncomfortable doubling up. But look, I don't disagree.
It is the double up as well. If we didn't want Trippier, I think all of us again. So I think it is just a case of just, hey, when it comes off, it'll be fun.
Oh yeah, of course it will.
But we'll probably have 3 weeks in a row of 1 point, 1 point, 1 point, 1 points.
Yeah.
We got anything left, boys?
Well, we had the individual ones, but I think now that we've, I think what we did have is I had the trips here, the trips graph just showing his fixtures as probably a player that we're all going to move to between 8 or 9 and World Cup. It's only surprised me he's only had 1 goal and assist so far, but 3 clean sheets, which out of 6 games is good. He's created 11 chances, 1 big chance so far. So, but you're right, it's the double up. I think is what you got to think of. But I mean, look at those fixtures, man. Bournemouth, Fulham, Brentford, and you got Everton, Villa, Southampton. They're just good.
Yeah, I think Trippier is the guy. I mean, you see, the thing is, he's on free kicks and corners. When they play easier games, they'll be further up the pitch, holding the ball. More free kicks, more corners.
Did you see that? Did you see that 90th minute one? That 90th minute one the other day, though, he gave it to Fabian Schär, like 92nd minute. He gave it to him. Like,
yeah.
So and Fabian Schär has been on my mind before I brought Trippier in. I was just like, well, can I save 0.6 and just get in there because he returns 1 in 6?
You're going to just look Fofana, Dalot, and Schär, all those type players. I think everyone's going to end up doing Fofana. I think everyone's because it's just going to be the easy one at 4.4. Mitro was anyone.
Well, I was going to do Zaha first because we just to highlight we've spoken about Zaha, right? We've just said Zaha basically 7.2, top choice that is to now to the World Cup, and then Mitrovic.
So you said, which kind of killed this conversation about having a conversation about Mitro, was like everyone's going to have him by game week 9. You just got to do it and be done with it. But what about game week 8? If there are games on, do you think you can go past Forest game without having Mitro this weekend?
So speaking of my personal position, I'm debating it because I have obviously Jesus and Haaland. So I have 1 spot to punt on. I might even punt on Kane, actually, especially if I'm selling Salah.
Yep.
So I don't think it's obvious, but I think it's a great pick. I mean, Forest is the worst team in terms of actually conceded shots in the box. So he will score. It's a question whether you want to sort of say Kane's going to score a hat-trick against Leicester. And that's basically what you're debating against.
Yeah. Assuming the Tottenham one's off, you get him.
100%. Mitro would be the first one.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I can't get to him. I have to just bank on Andreas.
You got Tony, haven't you?
Well, Tony's no good if the game's called off.
That's what I'm saying. So you can just go Tony to Mitrovic, can you?
Yeah, but I've also got 2 Liverpool, 2 Arsenal.
Wow. We've all got those.
Yeah, true. It's about where I want to go. You never know. They might just give everyone a game week 8.
But you look at this weekend and like Tottenham players are there. Kevin De Bruyne potentially is there. Mitro's there. Those for me are like the first things you want to jump on if the games are available. A Man United punt if that game's on.
Yeah,
it's kind of where we're at. But Mitro Friday night, you want him. I want him. I want a piece of him against Forest. I want to have Andreas and Mitro. Enjoy the fun. Have your vice captain on him because he's played. And then if anything else happens bad over the weekend, you've still got him played. Because that could still happen.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good.
They might say they can put games on, and then we get Saturday morning and they can't put games on.
It's a great shout, actually.
Yeah, very good, very good. I think that was it. I think there's nothing else that we have. Oh, we had the thing about sub times. Did you want to have a look at that, or is that really not worth it now?
We're good on it.
We're good. We're 1 hour and 20. So, I guess just a couple of questions. If anyone has any questions in the chat, so Tony or Jesus for Mitrovic. I mean, if you've played your wild card, I would go Jesus personally.
Yeah.
If you haven't, I don't think it matters because you're gonna move off
soon enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the absence of any other questions, there's 353 people in the chat, which is the most people we've ever had on a stream at once, which is cool.
All here for you, mate. All here for Pras.
I take no credit. It's more than no football. People are desperate for FPL content.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed it. If you have done, just hit the like button. Only 79 likes, 355 of you in here. Yeah, so we'll give it a minute. If anybody has any more questions, any other concerns or anything like that, then we can maybe answer that and maybe tap into Praz's knowledge if we need to while we've got him on.
A big
So
thanks from Dan.
while we're waiting for questions,
We'll wait. Go on.
what's your base case, you guys? What's your base case on what matches actually happen?
What do I think happened?
Yeah.
Friday night.
Only 2 games.
I think there's a bit of pressure to put that Wolves Man City on because I think Man City will always be like they're always going to have fixture congestion, aren't they, going forward? So I think if you can get that 1-2, then those 3, I wouldn't be surprised if it's just those 3.
I think we might get everything up to Saturday. I don't think we'll get Sunday. I don't think we'll get Sunday anywhere. I think we might get Friday and Saturday. It's just about how much time to make sure that they can logistically work everything out for Monday. And I think a day is enough. So I think perhaps we might get the Spurs game. We might get it.
I'll tell you what Sky won't do. They won't let them play that game earlier because you've got the 3 o'clock watershed. They're going to want that game. And then you've got 12:30. You've got BT game.
You've got BT.
So,
they won't compete. There's no way.
No. So I think it's either on or off. I don't see it being moved.
Yeah.
And Sky have obviously already got a Friday night game. So I think those first 3, the Bournemouth bit is a bit about travel, about whether they can get back. Because Bournemouth, especially when you come up, like when Newcastle got promoted, everyone went for a night away in Newcastle. That's what you do. And Bournemouth is now the same. Like Bournemouth have come up, they're like, we all want to go up there for a night in Newcastle, whether you got a ticket or not got a ticket. Like there's always 5,000 more fans than fans that have got a ticket to go out for a weekend in Newcastle. So, and a bank holiday weekend as well. So yeah, that could end up in causing a lot of pain coming back. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Newcastle Bournemouth's off too, but hopefully we'll find out tomorrow.
Hopefully.
Cool. Sterling and Kane or KDB plus Isak? Praz.
Sterling and Kane.
Sterling and Kane.
This is what I was debating on Wildcard 9.
Yeah.
Sterling and Kane. I like that.
Wolves assets, if no Man City game, I'm assuming.
Absolutely not.
Which assets are left? I mean, if you still have Neto, can I get your phone number?
Yeah. It's Diego Costa? Like, he's dead, isn't he? He's not fit, is he? I don't know.
Don't matter.
Rank for up to game week 16. Jesus, Mitrovic, Tony. I mean...
Mitrovic.
Tony, Jesus.
Oh, Jesus, I think will be back in our teams game week 13. He's just that good. We'll want him. So maybe.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Should you captain Kane or Haaland for game week 8?
Whichever one plays.
Haaland. You see, now we'll get midweek games. So again, we can go back to predicting minutes because we'll get Champions League games.
Yeah, but they've had a week off before that, Pras. So we've got to factor that in.
Haaland's broken the game. That's the story.
It's true. Is Salah a must-have after game week 11? Son instead of him until then?
Not Son.
No.
But Salah's not a must-have as long as we have an alternative captain, or arguably an alternative better captain. He's not a must-have anymore.
Yeah. This is the most. Yeah, I think this is bait. Is a -8 viable for? Well, it might not be. Is a -8 viable for this game week, depending on fixtures?
I wouldn't take a -8 for this week.
Too many.
I don't think the delta between game week 9 wildcard and 8 wildcard is more than. And you can still wildcard this week and take a -8 next week, right? You can have an ideal team this week and then sort of so.
Exactly.
No.
I'd rather take the hit. I'd rather take the hit in game week 9 out the other side of the international break.
Yeah. Fair enough. Nihal Pras, I've DM'd you my phone number because he's got Neto. If those 3 games are on, as you said, Baker, what do you do? Do you just play what you have plus FTs? I mean, I think we said. I think either but
because you can wild card out of it, can't you? So you're still going to take 3 players from those teams, like. If you've got 2 transfers, which just about everybody has got 2 transfers, is take your 2 transfers plus a -4, out of those games, get yourself another City. Mitro's happening.
Yeah.
Do whatever you like with the rest.
Last question. Go on.
If there's only 2-3 games, sorry, just to elaborate, there's no point free hitting because you'll have attackers playing defenders. The upside is so low. Yeah, you just sort of dead end to 6 players, 5 players, and just that's it.
Never
Bin
happened.
the game week off.
Unless you get this game week 8 only wild card that's been discussed
Free
as a free hit. That's just been discussed. In which case, you just pick whoever's going to play.
That's going to be terrible. 9 or 10 players will be 90% EO. You'll actually end up cheering for no one.
Yeah, exactly. And the final question is: Luis Diaz a must-have if no Salah?
I don't think you should look at coverage. I don't think that's the world.
Yeah, you compare Diaz with Maddison, Zaha, Bowen, and you compare Salah with KDB, Kane, and Haaland.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Pras, thanks for coming on, mate. And
thank you for having me. I mean, this saves me a 2-hour listen on the tube tomorrow because I listen to you guys every week, and it's you guys are absolutely fantastic. I never miss it because it's so informative. The best reaction you can get on the games that have just occurred. So thank you for doing what you're doing, and I wish you all the success and how you've grown in the last 12 months. I hope that continues.
Do we need to say anything else, mate?
What day are you putting this week?
Wednesday or Thursday night. Andy's a busy man, so we'll see. Whenever he's free, we'll do it.
Yeah. So if you get the chance, guys, Wednesday. If you're doing the evening one again, it's going to be about 10:30 UK time.
Yeah.
So that's burning questions on Fantasy Football Scout with Pras and Andy, which is FPL Sonaldo. So go check them out if you haven't followed Pras already. At Pras_FPL. All of our handles are on the screen. Thank you very much to everyone who joined. Over 100 likes, so thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you again next week.
Hopefully I have games to talk about next week, mate.
Hopefully I have games to talk about. Just doing the same thing all over again. Right, speak to you later, guys.
See you later.
Cheers, bye.